Look at us here, episode. Oh my God, this is episode 30?
Yeah, the Dirty 30s begin now.
Of the Road the Stage, which is very suiting today because we're bringing producer Ryan on. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, Pat.
How's it going?
It's going well.
Long time.
Long time.
It's because he wouldn't get a fucking mic in his side of this. Just come on, then. We'll give you a mic.
Moving forward, yeah, that's something. I'll chime in.
So many episodes where we rely on you for reference material.
Yeah.
I did love that moment in the Boy Golden episode, which was episode 29, where he mentioned the band that he previously played Bose in, Middle Coast, which I'm assuming you didn't realize until he said it he was in that band.
No, I didn't. I knew when he came into the Zoom meeting, I was like, I recognize this guy. I've definitely seen him before, but yeah, big fan of that band.
Well, I'm sure Pete agrees, but we always appreciate when you or other producer Riley hop in with some, like I said, with the Middle Coast, you
bail us out.
Ran into the room and said, that band is awesome.
Yeah.
Good context.
We need bailing out every now and then.
So episode 30 of The Road the Stage, we figured we'd bring you on because people may not understand your day job, which stretches well beyond, maybe you could call it a night job actually, but stretches well beyond these walls here in the Communal Creative Studios.
And it offers another side to, obviously we get the artist side, but there is a complete other side, and I really feel the unsung hero side of what makes shows are the people that you don't see up on the stage.
There's a lot going on there.
There is, and we're going to get into it, but not just yet. I do want to offer one piece of context. We interviewed Ryan as a test episode.
True.
Like a month and a half before we even launched this podcast.
It was cold out. It was February.
I was just going to say February. Yeah.
I don't remember more than 30 seconds of that interview.
Not much me either.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
I know it all.
We didn't even have this table when we did that.
I will fact check the hell
No,
out
yeah,
of
we were on the folding
We were real low.
we were still on the floor.
we weren't this high yet. But before we move on, again, welcome to The Road the Stage. What do we have here, Pete? You tell us. You're the beer meister.
So this is Sawback's American Pale Ale. Of course, Sawback, one of our great friends here. And we talk a lot about how great shows are in Red Deer. And if you have a band that you love, come to Red Deer to see the show at Bose because it's great. We also have amazing craft breweries.
Amazing. Red Deer is one of a kind for that stuff.
Yeah, Alberta is fantastic, but Central Alberta,
it's crazy.
Goes even over and above, and Sawback's right at the core of that. So yeah, their American Pale Ale, all of their IPAs, pales are great. They actually just won a silver at the Alberta Brewing Awards for their Irish Red, which is a seasonal. So can't get that at the
Couldn't
moment,
find
but award-winning. So yeah, lots of reasons to come to Red Deer for the shows, for the brews. Can we?
Well, this is the first time I've ever had an actual. Oh no, we had a beer with the Roadhammers, which I gently sipped.
Oh, that's right, because we had Sawback's.
Cheers, Ryan. Thanks for joining us on episode 30.
Yeah, I'm 3 days away from wrapping up Sober October, so I'll sit this one out. But.
Which, as someone who works in the bar scene, I can imagine is a very valuable month for some people.
Some clarity, over this month. Yeah, it's a lifestyle in there for sure.
Well, shout out to Sawback. We'll get back to the lifestyle in a second.
We talk about how great Red Deer is, so we've got awesome beer, we got awesome venues to go and check out, and we have the best porta potties.
The best porta potties
that you will find anywhere, thanks to Go Services.
Yeah, so shout out to them. And you, of course, for listening and watching on the Communal Creative Studios YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, follow us on our social media. Missing anything?
No.
All right. Well, cue music?
Cue music.
Who does that now? Shit.
Should we scat it? Oh, wow, our surprise guest, producer Ryan. So we wanted to bring you on because, like we mentioned, you are the sound guy at Bose. Yeah. Now, I feel bad calling you the sound guy because I know it's way more than that.
Yeah.
So do you have an official role?
The pay stub says production manager.
Okay.
So yeah, there's I take care of quite a few things there. I've got a great LD that I work really closely with. His name's Billy Robinson.
LD standing for?
Lighting director or designer.
Billy with a beard, shout out. Yeah.
LX, whatever, yeah. Lighting guy.
Yeah.
Bill Nye, the lighting guy.
Oh, is that what you call him?
I call him that, yeah.
That is great.
Yeah.
I bet he's happy too because Bo's light game has just jumped in the last couple of years, right?
Yeah, we are pretty spoiled there.
Sorry.
Producer Riley.
Riley's. If you got the beers going back there too, Riley, I think you just about fell over in the
fall into the glass. Yeah. So that's how I know you, is from just years going to shows at Bose, seen you behind that, what do we call it? The console.
Console, desk, whatever.
Do you know how I know him? I think the first time we met.
Do you know? Do you know?
Do you know?
There's one memory I have of running into you. I used to work at Windsor Plywood before I.
Okay,
worked
so
at Bose.
Windsor is the one. So I think I would have run into you through the Dusty Tucker days for sure.
Oh yes.
But Windsor, I remember we
Yeah.
were we'd bought a door,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember you helping me out.
I
with
remember
the
putting it
door.
in the
But
back of your truck.
Yeah. But
The
what?
sequel to We Bought a Zoo.
Yeah, big time. We built a zoo.
So that's the first time you met him.
Dusty days, yeah, that would have been.
Yeah, maybe the first time we would have actually had a conversation, probably conversation, I think, because I would have seen you at shows, but
Yep.
maybe just a nod or a, how you doing? But I think the
Yeah,
first
it was
time that we
definitely not me
actually
who dealt with any PR stuff with DT either. It was usually Joel or I guess me sometimes. But
And
it was
how far
never-
back does that go now? Like that's so it's funny. We'll get into some questions that I have from you because I definitely snooped your Instagram and
Mhm.
went back
Good.
Oh,
Like-
way back.
way back.
Yeah.
And like as I'm getting back through the years, I'm like, holy shit, how long have I known this guy?
Yeah.
Like how long? Yeah.
Even I scroll back through my Instagram and just like I'm completely disgusted with the person I perhaps used to be. I don't know. I've come a long ways, I'd like to think.
How long have you worked at Bose?
2017, I remember getting back from tour, and I guess a little bit before that. The first show I did was St. Groove's My Lady Noir EP release. That would have been July of 2015.
Oh,
so
okay,
I was
okay.
covering shows there, yeah, about 5 years.
So you're
On and off.
freelancing for a while.
Yeah, I of all places, I was working at the Springbrook Multiplex, and they had a music venue of sorts that Riley and I, again, been doing stuff for a long time, but we kind of got in there and we're trying to do shows and trying to promote stuff. We did some wrestling events there and stuff. That's kind of where I got really comfortable in like a big PA atmosphere and like a big venue atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of growing from there, I started picking up shows from Bose. Dylan was the sound guy at the time, Dylan Cave.
Okay.
And yeah, it's crazy to think that was 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah, and I'm assuming, much like we've talked about many times, and it's something I feel strongly, is that you've been there long enough to see this wild evolution.
Oh, yeah.
of quality shows, consistency, like
Yeah.
acts. I mean, I don't know. I think we use July Talk as kind of a
And that was
Show that
even
standard.
Yeah, I was a spectator at that show. I didn't
Really?
even work that show.
Oh,
yeah.
because they brought in their own team.
Had their
or-
own team, and Dylan was the house tech at that time
Oh,
too.
okay.
So that I was still covering shows. I think one of the first big shows I did there was I did Prozac.
Hmm.
That was a
sucks to be you.
Yeah, that was an adventure and a half. They had an LED wall and all that stuff too. So there was a lot of that was my first kick at the cat for like bigger production stuff.
Damn.
It was quite interesting.
Did they come out as cartoons?
They might as well have. No, that was a very interesting show. They had a DJ with them too. It was the two of them, and then there was a chick with them as well, running all over the stage.
Damn.
And then the Sloan was the next kind of cool environment like rock show that I got to be a part of. Yeah, those are the first two, I think.
Sloan, what year was that? I think
2018,
I feel like I remember that actually.
I want to say.
I think it might.
It would have been before that.
I think it might have been 2017.
Right.
And when the stage was small, like
Yeah, it's another thing. The stage has seen a significant upgrade in the last few years too.
Oh yeah.
So how did the interest get started in doing sound? You are a musician, so obviously the musician stuff came first.
For sure, yeah. I playing guitar since I was young, 13, 14. As soon as I grew up next door neighbor with the singer from DT, and we always just kind of wanted to start a band. We wrote music together for a long time, and we toured lots, and just like always like going and quitting jobs and going on tour. And I know Shane from in that couple episodes before has alluded to that same kind of lifestyle. Like it's all over the place. It's very like you tell an employer that you're going to leave, and you're either like, you can have me back when I get back, or I'm just going to come back and find a new job type of thing. So getting into production was just like, from my standpoint, it was like, I want to stay involved as close to the industry as I can, and I want to still make money doing it, pay my bills, and not just like lose my shirt every time I go touring. So my perspective, it's interesting how Bose was doing this stuff at that time. It's luck of timing for me. The job arose, and I was like, yeah, okay, this is something I can do, and tour and still work with bands and still learn a lot more about the bigger picture of how touring works.
Yeah.
And the mechanics of the music industry, meet agents, meet other bands, stuff like that. So.
And did you have that foresight right from the get-go? Like, it's just, I listen to that and I think most people pick up a guitar as teenagers and like, let's play some tunes, man. Let's just crank up some. But it really sounds like you were thinking on a different level than.
A little bit. Like, I wouldn't give myself too much credit. It was definitely not completely by design. It was, I don't know. I'm not sure. It wasn't intentional, I don't think.
Yeah.
When I got back I did a big tour in the States with the Wild, so that would have been the last big tour I did before I started working at Bose full time. I came home from that tour and basically decided to myself, I'm like, I want to work in the music industry forever, as long as I can. This is the lifestyle I kind of want to live.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got home from that, it snowballed quite fast. Brennan approached me and was just like, Dylan's going to school. He's moving to Edmonton. Are you interested in taking this position? And I had just come off of tour and was like really had seen lots of the mechanics of things. I was starting to build some confidence in doing bigger shows and doing sound.
So you could do it. You weren't faking it.
No. I would say by the time I was working there full time, I had a really good grasp on what was going on.
Your resume checked out.
Yeah.
Now, had you, because do you know how many shows you've done?
Cool. That's a good question. I think all the time of how I should keep track, or I should have kept track. I have no idea. I would say it's got to be over 300, 400.
So 300, let's just say 300.
Mm-hmm.
How many times did you experience a dog shit like time with the sound tech at a venue?
Like from a playing perspective,
yes,
almost every time.
Okay.
It's the genre of music we were playing in DT as well.
Right.
You go play punk venues, you go play like wherever you can at that point in time. Not everybody was like taking on bands that were going to jump around and go crazy and screaming and everything else, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of dusters, like a lot of old guys that are just like crushing beers and they're there for their $100. Don't really give a shit about what's going on.
I remember hearing that kind of sentiment from friends in bands all the time down in Calgary.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of like, he's been there forever, and
Yeah, that's a good thing to bring up, because as soon as I got into doing it kind of full time, I was aware of that big gap there. There's just like expectations from an artist to a sound guy and vice versa. So I kind of knew how to walk into that job and be like, okay, we need to make the bands feel. One thing that used to drive me absolutely crazy is you'd show up at a venue and nobody would greet you. You'd get there and you'd be, nobody's even happy to see you.
John Travolta.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was a big thing for me, like be there before the band. When they get there, help them load their gear in, and just like be friendly, establish some sort of communication and a friendly vibe with the band right off the get-go, and the night's going to go good.
Yeah.
There's some transparency there. You're not like scared to communicate on like a deeper level when you're unhappy with like monitor mixes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's.
I feel like that's an interesting thing to say, because I was thinking about it the other day, and you've got a band on tour, okay? You've got a tour manager.
Yeah.
And then you've got the host.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe I'm making it up, but I feel like there's just this automatic hostility between the two parties. I don't know why that exists, but I know like tour managers, they got a lot of responsibility. Mm-hmm. They've got a lot of, many standards to meet. They're protective. Yeah. Very particular about how things go out, because they're responsible for this group of
their
people.
Representation.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you say that, like, if you kick it off in a very positive.
But do you think there's maybe a little bit of a misconception? I think you probably get the stereotypical club owner who's trying to rip off the band, or you hear the stories all the time about the host treating the bands like shit. And we've actually, we've heard from several bands on this podcast of getting going. So that's already kind of. So you think maybe that the tour manager's already on edge a little bit?
Hey, we're going to this place. It's probably
let's watch out
shit.
for
Yeah. And even at the level I was playing in too, like we at that level too, and some of the smaller bands, like nobody is a tour manager. They're not really touring with sound guys either. There's just like whoever's the most like comfortable getting behind their band is acting tour manager. They're the point person you talk to for every show. And you can tell pretty quick like how the day or night is going to go based on like that first 4 or 5 sentences of dialogue. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It can be, okay, this guy is really friendly. He's going to be understanding. Or it can be, oh, this guy's a snob. Like we've got divas or something like that. You know what I mean? So luckily I haven't had to deal with Bose. We've been lucky.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, now as we truck along, like Bose has a reputation now that bands know what they're walking into at Bose now. We have a good reputation, and like a reputation that we'll continue hopefully holding.
Yeah.
So it doesn't bother me nearly as much as it used to. Just like like I said, the first 10 minutes, see how it's going to go.
Is there a common issue? Like, that's again the one thing I see with you guys is just like, and I've used the word wizard so many times, but you fix problems. There's always something that crops up. But the other thing that I've kind of seen just from my vantage point as well is it doesn't always necessarily seem to be the same problem. It almost seems like you have to be like you're seeing a thing for the first time almost every show. How the hell do you keep up with that?
That's kind of like the job of a technician as a whole, even not an audio technician or things like that. It's thinking on your feet and it's problem solving, and that can be anything in like understanding how electricity works past equipment and stuff like that. Like, oh, we can't have lights and we can't have audio on the same plug-in. That's gonna create grounding issues. It's a lot more of the bigger picture. And understanding how to just like make sure everything works fluidly, you know what I mean?
You just explained why I will never be able to put on a show.
I live for that
plug
shit.
those two
So
things in together? Do we have these lights and everything on separate?
Lights need electricity?
Wow.
Well, it's smaller venues and stuff like that. You get into bigger productions and it matters a lot more. Like if you put your subs and your main speakers on the same circuit, you can actually put your PA out of phase, which is time alignment, because of how power draws. Subs draw a lot more electricity than smaller speakers,
right?
Or higher frequency speakers. So if your subs are drawing really hard, and the sound is gonna come out of the subs slower than it's gonna come out of the other speakers.
Right.
So little things like that. It's such a massive, unending rabbit hole of things to learn in audio.
Yeah.
Which is that's the appeal of it completely to me, and just I would like to think that I strive working under pressure in situations like that, and I take a little bit of pride in it. Like it's, I've had problems and I haven't had a major derailment at Bose in the 6 or 7 years that I've worked there. You know what I mean? And that's
close calls.
Close calls, yeah.
But in that moment, and we've both seen it, there's some sort of switch.
That's what I'd love
just
to
get
know
her
what,
done time.
what it is.
Speaker wire. Chase it all the way down.
And,
you know what I mean?
And you can't panic, right? You absolutely cannot panic.
No, you'll lose your head real fast.
Yeah.
You said something to me really that I thought was fascinating once. I don't remember what show. It doesn't matter. But there was a musician playing. You were running the board, and you made me realize that you could be the most creative, talented musician in the world. It does not mean you have any fucking idea what goes into the technical work, right?
Yeah.
So
Very true. Yeah.
you actually made a point of like you feel responsibility for, and that's, I mean, it's your job, but for making these musicians sound good. They may not know how to do that themselves, and it's going to be different every single time. Yeah. So I'm assuming your experience touring and playing music for 20 years or whatever it is, has definitely benefited you in helping to achieve that goal.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. Comfortability on stage, massive. You take care of your bands, you give them good monitor mixes, they'll play well. Front of house will take care of itself. Monitors, to me, matter more than front of house. I have played a ton of shows, a ton of venues. I've had a good monitor mix maybe 4 times.
Crazy.
In 10 years.
Crazy.
And that's just dealing like...
And that's because of the experience.
Shitty sound guys. And just people not caring. And people that get into audio with no musicality background and haven't played shows and have seen all the variables, they don't understand that. You know what I mean? Another really important thing to point out to musicians, if anybody is watching and listening to this, is your monitor is not there for you to enjoy the show. The monitor is there for you to hear what you need to hear to perform your parts.
Right.
Sometimes I don't even take my instrument in my monitor. I'll take my point of reference. If I'm playing bass, I'll take rhythm guitar, and only rhythm guitar and vocals.
because you need to hear them.
I need to know.
to do your
yeah,
job.
if I lose track of a chord progression, some bands that I've played in, fast techie stuff. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? You
Yeah,
lose
yeah.
track of where you are, you're fucked.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, that and monitors, man. And just getting from wedges into in-ears, and that's as how that technology is snowballing on itself right now. In 10 years from now, I would like to think that almost everybody's going to be on in-ears.
Yeah.
Because that gets rid of now my stage volume. I have less volume coming from the stage itself, and I can get more clarity in the front of house mix and stuff like that.
It's just in-ears are a pricey system
Yeah,
to maintain.
and you need to know quite a bit of tech background
Right.
on how to operate them too.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot to do with, you go to some frequency ranges are completely illegal to operate in because emergency broadcast work in there.
Oh, damn.
So you buy cheap in-ears on Kijiji, and they're from 10 years ago, and you're working in, say, like 700 series megahertz. That you can't do that. And so the gear is constantly changing for that stuff, and a lot of people just don't understand that. That's an oversight.
Yeah.
You get yourself in a lot of trouble. In Europe, you actually have to go and you have to pay for licenses for certain bandwidth.
Holy.
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy. See, this is the thing, and I was really excited to talk to you about this stuff because there's so much.
Gets me excited. I love talking.
Well, yeah, and there's so much that as just a concert goer or an observer, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Right? Do you? You've been to 1,000,010 concerts in your life.
I mean, I do now, obviously, through just knowing Ryan for so many
Yeah,
years, and that's
yeah.
the same field that my son has gone into. So
Right.
I definitely know a lot more now, and especially when I started taking him to shows, and he had that interest in that.
Yeah.
We
kinda
just
relay some information.
yeah,
to you, yeah.
and we just I remember taking him to man, I can't remember what the show was, but we were at like it would have been Rexall Place in Edmonton at the time. And we were up a little bit higher, and I remember during the show, and knowing now that he chose the right career, but he wasn't watching what was going on in the stage.
Yeah.
He was watching the far back end of the floor, trying to figure out what all that stuff did.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest too, like when I used to go to shows as kids too, I'm like, what the hell what are those people all doing over there? What are all those buttons and boards? And so I do remember the first conversation that you had with my son when we first brought him back from school, and you guys were talking at Bose.
Yeah.
And it took me all of about 3 minutes to get lost, and I had no idea what the hell they were talking about.
Yeah.
Like just
It's a language.
it's the language, right? You're just like it was like you were speaking a completely different language.
Yeah.
And now, so all of that's self-taught with you, right? Like you just kind of
Yeah.
learned as you went and picked up things as you went. And
Yeah, I'm a big believer in this day and age. If you want to learn something, we have unlimited resources for learning on the internet. YouTube University is the ongoing joke. It's never a lack of resources. It's a lack of resourcefulness. I try and say that all the time.
Right.
Because if you think and be creative enough, you will find a way to learn it. I do have this weird thing that I've mentioned to other people before is I really, really like taking... I used to work in the oil field before I worked in audio.
Your
I
big
like,
boy job.
Yeah, man. I like to relate systems, mechanical systems, all together.
Okay.
So, just like in an analogy way, you know what I mean? So, like signal path is no different than water going down a pipeline. A valve can be the same as a fader. It can be the same as a gain knob. Compressors, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And I try to. The more you try, if you have something. I left the oil field with big, broad knowledge of how those systems work. It's very easy to learn and retain information if you can one-to-one relate it to something else.
Right.
So that's kind of my learning mechanism and my memory retention system for how I keep track of stuff. But that's I'm constantly in my day-to-day, like trying to see how things in the bigger picture are all working together.
Have you ever thought about teaching? Like, do you think somewhere down the road? Like,
It's crossed my mind.
has it? Yeah. No, I mean, you'd be absolutely amazing at it. That's
Thank
a
you.
great analogy. Like, I feel just from hearing that, I think I understand it.
That's awesome.
Definitely much
Yeah.
better.
Oh, yeah.
It's so this we can get deeper into it, but that's surface value of how I try and relate things together.
So you've offered a couple tips for musicians specifically. Immediately build a positive interaction relationship
Yes.
with the people that
Yes.
are in charge of making sure you sound good.
Yeah, you want to be able to have open dialogue and have no
Yeah.
animosity between
Right.
between parties. You know what I mean?
In what is for some reason seemingly naturally
Well, there's
weird,
a lot of egos
I was just
Yes,
gonna say,
and
that's
overconfidence
exactly what
in
it
the
is.
music industry,
precious
especially.
egos. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
yeah.
Let me,
Don't
like,
tell me I'm fucking wrong.
I know.
Yeah.
I've been at this bar for 40
Yeah.
years, kid. I know exactly. No, sir, you don't.
Yeah.
And I'll be the first to admit there has been sound guys that have done that to me in a way that's I kind of deserved it. Where
Oh, okay.
where I've put up my guard because it's like, shit, this guy knows his stuff and he's going to call me out on perhaps something. And I immediately, it's an instinction, put a guard up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As I get older and I get better at it and I get more comfortable in what I'm doing, that can't exist. You know what I mean?
Tip 2, your monitors are not so you can hear how
No.
great you are.
No, you're providing the show. You're not enjoying the show.
What else do you wish every musician knew when hitting up a new venue?
These are, some of it is a little bit techie, but there's a couple things I can think off the top of my head. The EQ on your amp
Yes.
is to fix what your amp sounds like in the room that it's in.
Okay.
It's not to make it sound. You can't take a picture of your EQ in your bedroom and take it into a stadium
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
use the same EQ.
Yeah.
For some reason, that is a weird misconception.
That's why my music
Another
career
one I
never took off.
forgot.
What about concert goers?
Um,
Because I've stood beside you.
Yeah.
Most recently in the summer,
mhm.
we had a big 10-band night at Bose,
Yes.
and you were busy as hell because there's 10 minutes in between bands.
Yep. A lot of change.
All sorts of different sounds, whatever. I stood there and watched you for probably a couple hours collectively over the night. Still have no idea what he was doing. No clue whatsoever. But it's definitely not, when you're in that mentality, it's definitely not, you should not be getting in these people their way.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and that's part of the one that I forgot about. But if you don't like the way things are sounding in a venue,
Mm-hmm.
before you complain to a sound guy, I'm not saying that people complain to me often, but take a look around.
Musicians you're talking.
No, I'm talking audience.
Oh,
I'm talking
okay,
audience
okay,
right now.
okay.
If you don't like the way perhaps the room is sounding, take a look around, assess the situation, and perhaps move closer to the speakers. It's
And then go to the doctor and
don't
get your
come
ears
to
checked.
me and it's it's 15 seconds after the band starts and I got some dude's girlfriend next to me, I can't hear his vocals. And it's
Really?
just give me a minute.
Does that happen a lot?
Not a lot, but it's
Wow.
not underage, but inexperienced bands and stuff like that. And I understand. I was in positions like that when I was younger, when you literally walk into a venue and you're a ball of excitement, and you visualized how the show is going to go so many times, and then you start the show and it's absolutely nothing like that.
Yeah.
Immediately get frustrated, and then you have your friends with you and stuff like that, and everyone's on your side, so they're now
Yeah.
they're trying to complain. and
Someone's aunt is
they
like,
think-
oh yeah, they don't sound
exactly.
that great. We should go talk to the sound guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what I
And they
find the
think they're
sound guy.
helping.
The sound guy gets a lot of flack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily the sound guy's fault. But do you so you said that you don't get a lot of people coming
I don't
over.
get a lot of people
Because I feel like I've been to so many shows where people are like, oh, that show was good. Sound guy sucked. I couldn't hear the blah, blah, blah. I don't know that that's
stop and
necessarily-
assess the room.
Yeah.
That's
Look
his
where the
fault.
speakers are.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, try and move. You know what I mean? Try and go stand 30 steps to the left and see if it still sounds bad. you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And then write a negative Google review.
Yeah. And then I will say, sometimes people will come up to me and they will say something to me in, not in a condescending manner or anything like that. And I'll listen. I'll be like, okay, that is correct.
Mm-hmm.
I'm focusing all my efforts on kick and snare right now, and I've overlooked how warm and no clarity there is in the vocal. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
It's maybe a little bit of the ADD thought process is a benefit to me, because you have to constantly be jumping around, and it's like, listen to this, sounds good, move on.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to this, sound bad, fix it, move on. And you have to constantly be jumping around, going through all the channels, and then once you get to the end of it and you get back to the beginning, assess it all, and then start again.
Right. Do you have a favorite genre?
Favorite
to,
genre
to be in your
to
position.
mix.
Yeah.
I've been blessed to mix some really, really cool indie alternative bands at Bose.
So when you say that, you mean the
Middle Coast
more
is
of
a
a
great
mellowish kind of
yeah,
flavor?
Ultimato was a recent band that I
Yep.
mixed. Amazing.
Yep.
I can do so much with that because the palette is huge. There's so much I'm being given frequency wise. I can
Right.
carve it into shapes, and I can do more creative things from my perspective with effects, with verbs and delays and stuff like that. It's very hard, and it's interesting because I played in a rock band. I love,
A loud band.
Yeah, loud, crazy,
Yeah.
like jump off your amps, go nuts band, and did that style of music for a long time. It's difficult to mix.
Yeah, I
It's
bet.
difficult to get any clarity, and a lot of, I look at a lot of 5-piece bands with 2 guitars, and it's like, if you're playing the same thing, why is that guy in the band? Like, you're already a wall of sound. Like, assess what I don't know. Things like that.
No, that makes sense. So, okay, so you have some genres that are easier than others or more fun for you.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Once you get into the recording side of things too, the more you have to mix, sometimes can be easier because the whole frequency spectrum is already being filled by the instruments provided. If I have to mix a vocal and an acoustic guitar, sometimes that's more difficult because I have this box to fill and I only have 2 things generating sound.
Yeah.
And I have to make it sound big. You know what I mean? So, that translates to a live sense as well. Like, it can be tricky.
Yeah, for
Bose
sure.
is a very loud room too, so to get, if the room was silent, I could have some clarity to the mix. Reverbs translate properly.
Right.
When it's loud, I lose all of the. It's no longer fragile.
Yeah.
And it's like holding those acoustic songwriter things in a fragile sense is tricky. It's very tricky.
And then is there a point where because what we're hearing from the audience is different than what the band is hearing, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Is there a way for you to tune into both?
In an in-ear scenario, for sure.
Right,
Yeah. I'll throw my headphones on and I will solo what they're hearing.
Yeah.
That's kind of how you communicate that way. Like, I can listen to what the monitor mix, even in a wedge format. I can listen to what it sounds like in my headphones, but that's not the same system. You know what I mean? We've been blessed with technology. I have an iPad now. Usually when I do monitors and I have the time, I'll get up on stage and I'll stand next to the artist.
Right.
And again, nobody ever did that to me.
Yeah.
Just bridging that gap in comfortability. I'll stand next to the artist and I will build their monitor mix and I will make it, and I will wait until they're like, yes, this sounds good. And I'll move on to the next person. But once the show's up and going, like, that's why we take sound checks.
Yeah.
So let's talk about sound check for a second and about things getting dialed in, because I've seen several sound checks where a snare drum will get hit 50,000 times.
Real life.
And I'm like, there can't possibly be that much difference in what's going on there. Can the mic here make that much of a difference with the mic there?
Open to interpretation. It depends. It depends who you ask. My perspective, again, different venue to venue. A lot of times when you're doing that too, you're setting. Snare drum's a great example for, like, you're gonna spread that around to the other. Like, if you're in a big at a festival, say, and you have delay stacks behind you and stuff, snare drum is a great time alignment tool.
All right. Because
it's the fastest moving transient. Transient being the wave, like the sound wave itself. That could be wrong. Nobody quote me on that. It's just the most reactive, I guess you could say. So I stand in Bose. I have delay speakers behind me, so I'll get the guy to hit a snare drum, and there's a little bit of a mathematical formula for distance over time. So it's 1 millisecond per foot. So you have to make sure that when that snare drum is hit, it comes out of the speakers to that distance over time.
And now, are you stopwatching that, or is that all just in your head
I count
now?
it. Yeah, some guys have like the laser measurements.
Right.
So, and if you don't time align your speakers behind you, that gets weird. It's disorientating. Nothing's time aligned. Imagine hitting a snare drum and being able to hear it come out of the speaker behind you faster than it's coming out of the speaker in front of you. It becomes a mess pretty fast. That's a whole.
Okay,
again,
so it's necessary then.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I'm a big, like, you can over EQ stuff too, and I watch sound guys do it quite often too. Like, if it sounds good, it sounds good. Also, I have a ton of experience in Bose in the venues that I've mixed. I know what things need to sound like by themselves, so when they all come in together, it all fits together like a puzzle.
So I have a specific scenario that I want to run past you. All right. At Bose, you've got the stage, you got the crowd, you've got you, All right, you're pretty much dead center from the stage, right?
Try to be. I'm a little off center to the
And
left.
how
Okay.
far back? Like that's probably 15 feet back.
15, 20 feet.
Which
I actually
doesn't
don't know.
seem like a lot, right?
No, the mixed position for bows is a little bit. I'm at the mercy of the venue.
Yeah,
We
of
are
course.
again. We are like the food and drink is primary there, right?
Yeah,
So I
totally.
can't disrupt traffic flow and just like getting in the way of patrons. So I try and tuck myself away
Mm-hmm.
as much as I can. But
So we've got July Talk, all right? One night you've got July Talk. The other night you've got Black Pistol Fire. You see where I'm going with this? Okay.
maybe.
Both nights you have those artists
Mm-hmm.
get off the stage, go through the crowd, and stand up on the bar behind
yes, Yes, I do. I do
What
know
are you
you're talking
thinking when you realize that they're committing to this bit?
about. Black Pistol Fire is ballsy to do some of that stuff too.
Why do you say that? Because in this case, Black Pistol Fire, it
I
was...
want to say he doesn't have a wireless on his guitar either.
No, I don't
So
think he did.
recorded for sure. And
So
then,
Kevin
and
McEwen-
again from a very basic standpoint, you just like, do you worry about feedback? Like, isn't that typically
like-
once you get the sound in front
Microphones, yeah.
right?
You're not
Not on a guitar. So
I guess
much.
it's always the guitars that are jumping up on the.
Yeah.
But these bands aren't coming to you during sound check and be like, I think
By the way,
45
I'm gonna-
minutes in the set, we're gonna huck it through the crowd and hop on top of the bar.
Sometimes I have a warning.
Do you actually?
Sometimes
Okay,
I
okay.
don't. And honestly, I love that shit.
Yeah,
So I would never get upset if an artist did that. Like I'm all for
That's the
it.
fun of it, right? That's the spur of
Exactly,
the. Yeah.
That's the rock and roll. Like
Yeah.
that's that wow factor. You see something like that happen in a small venue, you'll never forget that.
Oh, and I have not.
Okay, but then
Exactly.
so those other guitars jumping, like I can think back to Colorado on their last show. Menno came out into the crowd and they were doing the skip rope with the mic
yeah, I
cord.
forgot
And then you
about
think
that.
of Dan
Forgot about
Mangan
that
comes
too.
out in the crowd and,
Yeah.
and Ruben with Ruben in the Dark comes out in the crowd. So how, like, again, from my very limited knowledge, I know microphone goes in front of speaker. That's when you get the feedback.
Yeah, if you've done your homework during sound check and stuff and you've EQ'd that microphone properly, you should be okay.
Won't happen.
Yeah. So basically, feedback is just like a buildup of a certain frequency that comes out of the speaker that feeds into the microphone, and that's what creates a feedback loop of the audio itself. If you are pulling those saturated spots and frequency out, you have a way less chance of feedback happening. And then you have processing behind, like my board. Inputs come into my board goes into another processor, and then it comes out of the speakers. So the processor we have in Bose, not a cheap thing. That thing is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. It's
Right.
on my side big time for making shows sound good. And I don't want to say, by no means does it have feedback detection or anything like that, though that technology does exist.
Out there.
So what is that? That senses the feedback and then kind of just naturally kicks in to
it can be
eliminate
anything
those.
from gain reduction.
Yeah.
It'll automatically pull that spot of frequency for you, so it doesn't feed back. It's stuff like any automated thing like that in live audio. I don't trust it. It's just
Yeah, fair enough.
You put all your faith in something like that, and it doesn't work. I'll never ever use it again. Not saying that I use most
Yeah.
of that stuff to begin with, but
So as my memory is, like, I remember that moment when July Talk are playing, Leia Faye, Peter, they go through the crowd. I believe they're both on the bar top, right?
Yeah.
And one or the other was pouring, was it whiskey into the other's mouth?
Yeah, that's right.
yes, I do remember that.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're telling me that in that moment, it's not like white knuckle panic mode for you. You can kind of enjoy it a little bit.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, sure it was.
Because honestly, by the time that happens in the show as well, like you've pretty much got everything set, right? Like, so is that the
Right,
case?
right.
Like, you've got your first couple of songs, you're feeling everything out, you're making sure that everything from sound check is still where it is.
Yep.
And then how much work is there that through the rest of the show then?
This is different for every sound guy, but this is I say this often is like that's where my technicality switches to musicality. So that's where I start dealing with effects. I'll ride effects a ton. Somebody holds a huge long note and they're singing and whatever else. I'll throw delays and it'll make that scream sound thicker.
And that's all on you? Like,
Yeah.
so there's no talk beforehand saying, hey, in this song, I have a really long note.
No.
Could you throw a little extra
No,
reverb on
I
that?
do it all on the
That's
fly.
you doing it all,
I mean, at that point, you may as well be part of the band, no?
right?
Well, some sound guys are considered that way, right?
Yeah,
So it's basic stuff too, like snare reverb, tom reverb. You never reverberate anything in sub-frequency. I know this is pretty techie stuff, but vocals, vocal heavy. Like I'm effects heavy, and that's I love adding that extra layer on top of live mixes. You can overdo it for sure. And I've definitely had bands be like, you know, like a cover band, and they'll like come off stage and be like, yeah, maybe don't. Maybe,
I was just gonna say,
maybe
there's got to
just
be
dial it back a little bit. It's
such
like,
a
okay,
It didn't sound Bon Jovi enough.
Yeah, exactly.
there's got to be such a level of trust there, right? Because everybody's going to have different, you know, and again, I'm going to use the reverb as a bit of the example, but there's going to be some singers that are probably want some pretty heavy reverb, and then there's going to be other ones that are sensitive to reverb. So there's some trust in.
There is. Just a side note thing while we're talking about live shows and reverb, musicians try to never ask for reverb or delay in your monitor. That's just a that's a weird thing.
Yeah, no
it's
kidding.
When you want to
move.
hear exactly what.
Well, it's if you reverberate a monitor, you're no longer singing with confidence. You're going to lean into you're going to start singing over here, and then you're going to lean into the mic like this. And you're going to try and it's a rookie thing. Try to get away from it.
Damn, all sorts of tips for the musicians and the concert goers.
I've been around the block with this stuff. It's just, you know, and once I'm looking for the least amount of volume coming from the stage itself, other than the instruments. So if I have more reverb coming out of a monitor, I have no control of that. You know what I mean? To an extent, I can turn it down.
Yeah.
And then I got somebody asking to put it back, and it's, you know, that's why I love in-ears. You get rid of the monitors altogether.
Yeah.
Stage volume is just, that was a tangent offshoot, but yeah, get away from it.
Are there any bands that you would like give props to for some sort of amazing understanding of your role? Like, have you ever been like super impressed by a band for their knowledge of the system?
Royal Canoe.
Oh, that
Big
makes
time.
a lot of
Their
sense.
sound guy, and that is a very, very intelligent band when it comes to production value. Whew. Yeah, if you have not listened to that band, go and just like lay on your couch with some headphones, especially with headphones.
Yeah.
That is sonic pleasure.
And they do a pretty good job replicating that on stage.
Very much so.
Wow.
Their sound guy has taught me a lot, and I've only worked with him twice.
Cool.
And he's very much a part of how that stuff translates.
Right.
Like, he does quite a bit of the effects from the console instead of, you know, instruments and pedal boards and stuff like that.
I've never seen Royal Canoe, but I've listened to them a lot, and I've always wondered how they would sound or accomplish some of those things live.
Yeah, I watched him one show sing into two microphones at the same time, and one of them was pitched down. So he's doing regular like melody, and then he has another microphone, and it looks cool too. Like,
so those guys are nerds.
big time.
Yeah. Very cool.
There's another band that I don't know that I've ever seen you guys or some of the other more technical folks that I know get so geeked out is when Big Rec's around.
Oh God!
Like I remember talking to you after Big Rec,
Yeah.
like you were just gushing.
That guy, Ian Thornley, one of the best guitar players in Canada, real life. Like the guy shreds, and his understanding of tone and dynamics and everything else, on top of singing while he's playing, and his songwriting and everything else. Yeah, I'm
important to know he's a
Rec
Berkeley trained musician, right?
Yeah.
Like
that translates.
Yes.
yeah, he's got the theory. I didn't believe it until I think I'd seen them. I saw Texas King open up for them a couple years ago, right before the pandemic, and I remember Jordan McDonald being like, I think he called him the scientist.
Yeah,
because he's just so technically proficient.
Everybody in that band too.
Yeah,
like they all know what they're doing.
Yeah,
you know my horror story with Ian.
No, I don't think so.
In an interview, no.
What did you do?
Well, it was like a pretty simple question.
You called him Brad.
Yeah, so Brad.
You called Ian Brad?
No, no, God. They were promoting. I think it was Albatross. It was the first album back in whatever 2004, 2006, whatever. They've been gone and away for 8 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So I had a simple dumb radio guy question, and I said, "Do you still get excited hearing your songs on the radio?" Like at that time, they'd been off the radio for quite some time, and they had a brand new single. And I'm like, "Is it still exciting to hear your song on the radio?" And right away, he was just no. And I'm like, oh shit.
You're live on air?
We're live on air.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh God, I pissed off Brad Thornley, and I'm never going to recover from this. But then he went into explaining about all of the work they do in the studio to perfect the sound and the frequencies, and then radio does get a hold of it and puts it through compressors, and it just isn't. So it wasn't necessarily that he doesn't love hearing the songs on it. He just doesn't like the sound quality change.
Yeah, and streaming services do the same thing too,
Yeah.
to an extent. Like, yeah.
Well, that's like was it the last Jack White album that he said that he kind of like he would go out in the car and put it on the radio and see what it sounded like through the car
Oh, that's classic.
to try and get like a
that's
better end result?
We call it in recording. We call it truck testing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
You burn to a CD. You go to your truck. You listen to it. You write down your critiques. That's a very important thing when you're mixing and producing in a studio.
Right.
You got to take that and listen to it on 100 different stereo systems.
Yeah. Hardly anyone has this gear that I have. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's funny because one of the most common set of studio monitors, like I just bought a set of Yamahas. The more common ones are the NS10s, and those are consumer grade, not very good sounding speakers. But when it comes to reference speakers, you don't want them to sound good.
Yeah,
you want them to sound, brittle and fragile. You just have to go one extra step to balance frequency there.
Right.
Which is mixing in itself.
Truck testing.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's that. Like, there's, I'm pretty sure.
I'm writing the whole curriculum of the School of Kuly as we go along. I think we're gonna have a curriculum by the end.
It's I would love to teach some of this when I'm older. I still have lots to learn, and that's and I'm very aware of
And
that
it's
too.
always evolving and
Always.
changing and
There's some, I can't remember the artists, but somebody had actually cut a car in half and put the two front seats of their car
In the studio?
in a studio.
Wow.
So they didn't have to. Yeah. So
Damn.
burn it to CD, or
Wow.
now technology has come so far. We just send it in a Google Drive link to our phones, or use AirDrop, and I take it in whatever else.
Right,
Use
right,
Bluetooth, but yeah, that's true.
Truck testing. Very cool. Very cool. Are there bands that that, like, we interview bands every week for the most part. Like, I definitely have a list of bands that I really want to talk to before my life is over.
Yeah.
What about you? Are there bands that you want to mix?
If I could have gone back in time, the Eagles is on my list.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Explain
the
that.
Eagles harmonies.
Yeah,
Nobody
okay,
did the
okay.
harmonies like the Eagles. That band.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
no, I wouldn't have thought that either.
Sonically, like if Kings of Leon could have been doing their thing, because of the Times era, Only by the Night era, that band
Garage
holds-
rock Kings of Leon.
Yeah, that band holds a very, very special place in my heart. Not so much anymore, but that was. I knew, like, because of the Times, still one of my favorite records of all time. I knew I liked that album, and I couldn't explain why. It just sonically, it honestly could have been. I don't know. The production value on that record is not even that good. It's just how it all comes together as a full package. The songwriting, like the rough around the edges vibe of it all and stuff. And Caleb could still like scream and do all of the cool abrasive vocals that he did. Yeah, you're kind of putting me on the spot. Those two are
Kings of Leon and the Eagles.
I'm thinking back
every
to
time I die too.
I'm thinking back to what you said about, mixing things and having it a little bit harder with just the singer-songwriter with, if you have lots of stuff to mix.
Yeah.
So, put yourself into that scenario then. The Eagles are going into Seven Bridges Roads.
Yeah.
And it's just harmonies.
Yeah.
How is that to mix? Because it's just
Yeah.
vocals for this.
Yeah, it's EQing vocals so they all fit together like puzzle pieces type of thing, it all is how it fits together in a frequency spectrum too. It gets back to that kind of nerdy talk, but another great example of something that was similar to that, St. James Gate played Bose their last 2 shows ever here this last weekend. Their first song when they came back for Encore was exactly that. It was all 5 of them doing an a cappella version of, oh goodness, I cannot remember the song. But when they started singing that, I was like, okay, I'm on faders like this. And I was mixing for broadcast too. What?
Go ahead.
And that's, especially when you have low end to high end, like the full vocal frequency spectrum.
Yeah.
It's, loved it.
Yeah, it gives me chills just even thinking about the harmonies of those.
I got to start listening to some Eagles, I guess. I didn't know they did any other songs than Life in the Fast Lane.
Start with Seven Bridges Road.
They got a
Right,
song
good.
about a hotel.
Seven Bridges Road, yeah.
Yeah, I think something about a hotel. Okay, so we're
We can go for
good?
Yeah.
okay because I did all of this
I can leave at
homework
8.
and scrolling back through your Instagram so that we could kind of
Bring up the shit
some
that he
things.
already said he was disgusted over.
No.
No,
This
is
won't
good.
be
I can
disgusted at all.
justify some of my actions.
So let's
maybe.
just see how well you can remember a couple of these. May 25th, 2013.
Cool.
Damn.
So even just 2013, you're playing a venue, a pretty prominent Alberta venue for the first time.
Starlight Room.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you
That would have
remember?
been, that was DT. We played with a rock band called Altera. pretty sure.
So rooms, again, the job that the sound people are doing matters,
Mhm.
but the rooms matter as well. And there are certain rooms
Yeah.
that just have their own personality. I think Bose is one of those, but Starlight Room as well.
Never been there.
Never been to Starlight?
Yeah, we've had this conversation. You're crazy.
Yeah.
I've never seen a show in Edmonton.
We'll go to the Comeback Kid, Cancer Bats, Mr.
Yeah.
Signals
Oh, yeah,
show
for
at
sure, for sure.
Starlight. It's like for
also
those
coming to Bose.
those high energy shows, it's a fucking vibe, man. It's
Cool.
crazy.
Sick.
Starlight Room was just cool when we were growing up because we
Yeah. Right.
you know we were following punk and hardcore for a long time too. So those bands don't really break through and play, you know, like McEwen Hall or places like that. So Starlight Room, they used to play the VAT religiously, Dickens Pub in Calgary.
Yep.
Rickshaw Theater in Vancouver.
Did you play Verns?
Oh, I've played Verns too many times.
Not-
too many
not
times.
known for its
Take the
sound.
symbols off the wall. You're not doing anybody favors. Yeah, that's sorry, Verns. But,
Makes complete sense.
Pyramid Cabaret, a great venue in Winnipeg.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, really cool room. Never got to play the Mod Club, but that was another great intimate, you know, what would have been 600-700 cap venue in Toronto.
Yep. Yeah.
I've seen shows there. Never got to play there.
Where did you play in Toronto?
I've played Bovine Sex Club a handful of times.
Cool.
Played the Underground. It's interesting on Queen Street because a lot of those venues stay venues, but they do just change. They get rebranded, they get bought and switched around. And then into the States, like the Wild Tour, the Machine.
Well, that's okay. So my next,
Yeah,
the next one that I saw
in Flint.
I saw July 18th, 2017.
That would have been Salt Lake City.
No, you're a little further south yet.
Is that Louisiana?
No, south and west.
Oh God!
Can we bring up a
Remind
map?
me.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
whole
So
tour was a
I imagine
blur,
it would be
man.
a blur. I don't know if this is the venue that you played, but the picture that you posted on July 18th, 2017 was the Whiskey A Go Go.
Oh
on the
yes,
Sunset
yeah.
Strip.
We played Johnny Depp's club. We played the Viper Room.
The Viper Room is
Yeah.
another legendary.
Crazy.
Yeah, we went to the Rainbow.
Yeah, as you have
Lemmy's,
to.
Yeah, Lemmy's Bar.
You've been there, right?
We
yeah.
walked
Yeah.
the Sunset Strip. Yeah,
We were at the Rainbow. I want to say 3 days after Lemmy had passed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no kidding.
yeah.
And
So
you
all
sat
the-
in his seat and they kicked you out?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, this
That place
new
is
Lemmy's in
incredible,
town.
man.
No, that's not. It's the history.
So the Viper
Yeah.
Room that was still a thing. Did you say
I don't
2018?
actually know if
This
that
was
was if Johnny
2017.
Depp owned it at the time
Right,
or whatever
yeah,
else.
yeah.
I just know he was part of it at some point.
Oh, he sure was.
Yeah, that was a real thing.
Crazy.
Did a lot of cool things. Fremont Street in Vegas.
Yeah.
Webster, the small venue in Webster Hall in New York City.
Yeah.
And fucking everything in between. That tour was like I said, it changed my life. I came home from that tour and I was like, okay, I want to do that every month for the rest of my life.
And you didn't.
Didn't. And immediately became a sound technician. No, we
So-
actually got,
Where did you have the best sound?
we were on ears that tour.
Oh, okay.
So
Didn't really matter all that much?
no, not hugely. We played a really cool venue that actually was probably one of the better shows on that tour. It was in Juliet. I don't know if that's how you say it. It's outside of Chicago.
Was it
Joliet.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how you say it.
Yeah, great venue, and it was it was new. It had sheen to it still.
Oh, very
It wasn't,
nice.
Scrubbed off bar tops and sticky floors or anything like that. It was nice. It was a really cool place.
Well, I'm happy to have learned something about what I shouldn't and should do as a concert goer. I hope that some musicians maybe take a couple friendly tips from this as well.
Yeah, some people hear this telling me I'm fucking crazy.
I hope so.
Yeah,
That'd be
me
fun.
too. To each of their own.
Yeah, and like, I mean, there is an exact science to it, but it is like it's all ears, right? And every ear is going to hear things a little bit differently.
Yeah, there's some. I find even when you go see bands that you really really like, there's some psychoacoustics there that are just like, even if it sounds bad, it sounds good to you. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's happened to me before too. Yeah, it's all fascinating stuff to me. Absolutely fascinating.
You're at a concert. You're not doing sound. You're just there as a viewer.
Mm-hmm.
Earplugs?
No. And I'll take shit for that. It depends on the show. Buck Cherry 3 weeks ago, earplugs the whole time.
Yeah.
Loud and in a weird way, not just like overall perceived volume, like high frequency, shrill, loud.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on the show.
But it's not something that you're thinking about, I need to do this so I can preserve my ear holes.
As I get older, and I take this more seriously, I do wear earplugs now and again when I feel like I kind of know. Again, somebody will call me out on this, I'm sure, but I kind of know when I'm doing real damage to my ears. That Buck Cherry show was a real good example of that. It's just, if I can feel the frequency in my jawline, that's not cool. That's not a good thing.
I know too, but it's the next day.
Yeah.
Or like 3 hours later.
And I've got
sleep.
tinnitus. I've had tinnitus for a long time.
The damage on mine was
Concrete,
done many years
Concrete
ago.
basements jamming with DT for 8 years and everything else.
Fair enough. Well, I don't know. I think I've learned a lot. Have you learned a lot?
I could keep this going on forever.
We'll have you back on episode
we'll
60.
talk more. Yeah, there we go.
And the School of Cooley, like, is that what we call it?
Yeah, stay in school.
Stay in school. Yeah. Red Deer needs more audio technicians. So if you're listening, I will bestow some knowledge on you.
Interesting.
And, yeah.
All right. Well, Ryan, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be on the other side of the glass.
Yeah, finally. I mean, we only talked to you like fucking 3 times an episode. So. But it makes sense.
I'll throw a mic in there.
While we're here, I mean, we may as well just wrap
her up.
Right?
Yeah.
I've been thoroughly enjoying this beer. You all know that I'm a lightweight. And I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Okay, good.
Right on.
A nice little 5.4%.
I was just going to say, this one isn't. I was that Belgian dark strong they had that was 10 point something. I think we should have.
Yeah, I would have had a nap like 20 minutes ago. So shout out to Sawback Brewing. Shout out to Go Services Inc.
Tourism Red Deer.
Yes.
Bose Barn Stage. Producer Riley, who will get in on a
we can't wait to talk. Have we even told you why we want to talk to you?
Riley and I have known each other for about 15 years almost now.
So you're going to give us some good dirt.
Yeah, there could be a whole episode on that, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. But we beg of you to subscribe to the Communal Creative Studios YouTube channel.
It really does come across as just such bantering, eh?
Yeah,
Please.
of course.
But it makes such a huge difference.
We're working on some stuff that's worth checking out. So
yeah, for sure.
I
so
encourage it.
Like and subscribe.
Review, rate.
Yep.
Comment.
Apple. Spotify, do you figure out if they've got a review system
Spotify
yet?
does not have a review system.
Losers.
Follow. There's the follow.
Yeah, for sure. And apparently Facebook, because Facebook just told,
Meta.
Meta told us that they'd start airing our podcast recently, so we'll see if that does anything.
Thanks, Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
I love how people are like, Zuckerberg had his big press conference yesterday. I didn't watch it, but the meme is that he had a bottle of Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue
I saw
sauce
that, yeah.
holding up. It was like as a bookend, right?
Yep.
On his bookshelf. He's got a bottle of Sweet Baby
Dude's a
Ray's.
robot.
And people are like, why is he doing this? Like, I just thought everyone knew Zuckerberg was this strange barbecue dude. Have you seen the video?
Oh no.
Oh, there's like a 6-7 minute mega cut of him talking about smoked meats and
That's
Sweet
right up
Baby
your
Ray.
alley.
I was just going to say,
maybe
my impression of Zuckerberg's been wrong all this time.
amazing.
Well, if we can like tap into his OS, his system, maybe we can get him on the show to talk to us on the road the stage. But I highly doubt it. I think it's pretty heavily protected. Weird Android motherfucker.
He'll figure it out. If anybody's going to figure it out, this guy will self-teach himself, and he'll be in.
All right, do you? I got an idea.
Yeah, I love that idea.
That's a great idea.
Great idea.
The road the stage.
Okay, let's do it.
When?
Wednesdays.
The Road the Stage is produced by Ryan Kuly and Riley Sur-Yin at the Communal Creative Studios in Red Deer, Alberta. In partnership with Go Services Inc., Sawback Brewing Co., Tourism Red Deer, and Bose Bar and Stage.